Nothing has brought me greater joy than watching the Walt Disney Company absolutely panic over the last few weeks. They're mad at South Park because they're making fun of their woke ideologies, constantly race swapping or religion swapping everything in their movies.
It's a brand new exclusive event with all your favorite South Park characters.
I had explosive diarrhea all night. Dude, school is going to be so awesome today.
Oh, hamburgers.
I like big boobs.
How does this even make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. I think the problem is you.
Nobody was surprised. South Park has chosen to parody Disney's woke agenda by mocking what they're attempting to do with Rachel Zegler's Snow White and numerous other Disney projects. This was to be expected since South Park has previously pulled a similar stunt against Disney, but Rachel Zegler appears to be incensed at their and everyone else's criticism. In a very satirical depiction of what Disney is attempting to accomplish with many of its forthcoming films, South Park has chosen to screen an episode called Into the Panderverse, in which they have gender and race switched Cartman Stan Butters and Kenny for adult women of color. Disney has recently faced a lot of criticism for casting Rachel Zegler as Snow White despite the fact that she is Latina and for altering the plot to make it appear more feminist and empowering while deleting crucial details of the original story that defined Snow White. According to Rachel Zegler, the film has eliminated any hint of romance between her and the prince, and she has even hinted that the prince might as well be cut out of the narrative in what some fans consider to be an extremely disrespectful interview.
Prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Many people have questioned Rachel Zegler's attitude because she comes across as incredibly entitled and ungrateful for the part.
Snacks all over the set that are apple flavored. And that hurts my feelings.
I was gonna say,
It's like they don't know what happens to me. There's gonna be so many stories that come from the set about how difficult I am to work with simply because I don't want apples. In a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is.
So that is Rachel Zegler. She is casted as Snow White in the upcoming new movie. And ever since she has been casted, she has been problematic from the start. Every single interview that she does, her tone of voice is very rude and she comes off very rude. The movie right now has such bad publicity because of her and her interviews.
And fans especially hate her because of the way she's been making it sound like the original Snow White story was horrible, and because she thinks that this new version that almost doesn't even sound like Snow White is the only right way to tell the story. Disney has not only completely changed the 7 dwarfs that are literally in the original title, but they also removed the prince's importance by seemingly not having him in Snow White fall in love. And not only that, but the studio has also been getting a lot of backlash for casting a Latina actress as Snow White when the original character was named for her skin as white as snow. This connection is now impossible to draw in this new movie, and her name no longer makes any sense because of the choice to make Snow White Latina. This questionable choice is something that was done in The Little Mermaid earlier this year as well, and that movie similarly received a whole lot of backlash for unnecessarily changing her race. However, while the majority of the backlash from The Little Mermaid came from changing her race, the same can't be said for Snow White, as it has many other problems that fans are. However, with all the changes made to Snow White to seem pander to woke audiences, this new film is almost unrecognizable. Comedy Central stepped in to prove a point by creating a special South Park episode where they have race and gender SWA the main characters, and they're showing exactly how ridiculous it is by really playing up the satire of it. Furious about The Little Mermaid was able to keep a lot of its original elements that made the story wonderful, and the adaptation was almost a direct copy. Comedy Central is very well known for its jabs at various studios for their wokeness, and even both left and right-wing political ideologies, so no one is really safe. However, this isn't the first time that South Park has made Disney their target, and while their new Panderverse special is meant to mock every studio that caters to woke audiences, it seems like it's especially aimed at Disney because of Snow White and Rachel Zegler, along with the studio's earlier release of The Little Mermaid. The Main reason for the episode's theme is to show that simply changing ethnicity and gender doesn't count as real diversity, especially in a pre-existing story like South Park or Snow White, since the story was never about exploring ethnically diverse characters, and there's nothing for viewers to relate to because of it. It's also supposed to show exactly how one-dimensional some of these changes feel, since it just ends up with the studios checking a diversity checkbox instead of making it a real part of the story. It also especially mocks the choice to cast Rachel Zegler for Snow White, since Disney seems to care more about how the diversity looks on paper than making sure that it adds to the story, and Rachel's attitude to the story certainly doesn't help their cause, since it puts off a lot of fans from wanting to celebrate her casting is exactly what is commonly referred to as pandering, which is why the episode has earned the title from the Panderers. It demonstrates that choosing a Latina actress for Snow White is more of a marketing ploy and is pandering to a particular audience in order to gain bonus points. South Park seeks to show how this kind of pandering is not only detrimental for Rachel, who is now being exposed and ridiculed, but also extremely disrespectful to true fans of the original story who have lost all interest. This isn't the first time the show's creators, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, have collaborated with Paramount to produce satirical episodes based on Disney's decisions. Back in 2022, they released The Streaming Wars and Streaming Wars Part 2, which at the time was actually a highly controversial episode, but it appears they're back again because they're not afraid to tread on anyone's toes, especially Disney's. Disney is reportedly trying to get in touch with the studio to prevent them from airing similar episodes, since they see it as a direct danger to their business model, and they appear to be upset with them for doing this to them once more after first making fun of them for Star Wars. Disney has stated repeatedly that they want to create more diverse stories, which reportedly means remaking beloved classics by racializing characters that shouldn't have been there, rather than creating new original stories that could offer better narratives that genuinely seem well-considered and significant for the groups they represent. Bob Iger, the creator of South Park, and the Disney board are reportedly trying to resolve the matter in a meeting to ensure that Disney won't suffer too much and that South Park stops making fun of them going forward, because it is beginning to directly threaten their business model. South Park has not only mocked Star Wars, which Disney acquired in recent years, but it's even gone after the beloved cartoon figure Mickey Mouse, which Disney saw as incredibly disrespectful. However, this new episode concerning Disney's pandering might just be their most controversial release yet, as it's not only going after Disney, but it's also coming from many other studios that support similar things, and even fans who believe there's nothing wrong with changing such big parts of existing stories. It's supposed to show exactly how wrong it feels to have something so familiar changed so much, while still using the original name. Removing the love story from Snow White is not only disrespectful to the original creator of the story and everyone who worked on it, but it also feels like a cheap out, since they could have worked to make the love story better and more thought out instead of removing it fully. There's nothing wrong with love, and it's not something that should be hidden away. Fans think that Snow White can still be a strong force to be reckoned with while also having her prince by her side, and it could have been a truly beautiful sequence to have in the film instead of completely removing the prince from her life and rewriting her to be a warrior who only cares about her country. This is why it feels like Disney is trying to alienate its devoted fan base in order to appeal to woke minds, especially when the opportunity to create a brand new film with a new plot is right there. Rachel is particularly criticized because she has been a strong supporter of these changes and has essentially been the main proponent of changing the story because she thinks it is incredibly outdated.
Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
It seems particularly incorrect because Rachel was never a fan of Snow White and made it quite apparent in an interview when she described how much she detested the story without even attempting self-censorship. Tell me what you think about South Park's treatment of Disney and Rachel Zegler in the comments section below, and don't forget to see this following video.